For a long time, Jeremy Ray Wilson presented himself as a super dad, and if you looked at his content on his social media platforms before he was banned, he looked like the perfect single parent documenting the daily life of taking care of his autistic daughter. But the more people knew about him and dug into his past, they realized something disturbing.
But see, the problem is that he's a 3-time charged, 2-time convicted, registered sex offender to minor.
And if it couldn't get any weirder,
when I was 17 years old, I was in a group home, and I exposed myself to another resident, which landed me on.
But what makes it even more bizarre is that despite the convictions and the serious allegations against him, Jeremy believes it was not his fault.
You can also not look at someone's picture and determine exactly how old they are.
So if you missed the tea of this single dad, sit tight, because today I dive into the chaos of this self-proclaimed super dad who allegedly got exposed for being a PDF file.
I don't know how you couldn't tell she was 13. You did say she looked a bit young. If you can't tell a 13-year-old from an 18-year-old, then you should not be around any child.
Now, Jeremy is the owner of the now banned TikTok page at SuperDadOfficial. And if you ask Jeremy who he is, he would probably describe himself as a great single dad who has total physical and legal custody of his daughter.
I happen to have custody of my child. Sole, physical, and legal custody. I've had her since she was 2 months old, by myself.
And he's helping other families and parents of children with autism and disabilities properly parent special needs kids through his content.
But here's what I am going to say.
What?
When people are different, we do not make fun of them. We do not mock them. We treat them nicely.
So after that account was banned following widespread exposure of his criminal history and exploitative content involving his daughter, Jeremy rebranded to @TheLawsuitGuy 2026 as an attempt to clear his name.
How you doing? My name's Jeremy Wilson, and I'm on a registry that I don't deserve to be. Since October, I have been publicly vilified, publicly shamed over something that happened in my past.
Something violent or dangerous, but because of how the system handled it, it's followed me ever since.
Turns out in 2004, when Jeremy was 18, he once went to a police officer and asked to be looked up to see if he was wanted for anything. But after running his name, the officer discovered there was a warrant connected to that indecent exposure charge, and as a result, Jeremy was arrested and formally placed on the offender registry.
2004, at 18 years old, he stumbled across a police officer and jokingly asked him to look him up to see if he's wanted for anything. He was. Indecent exposure.
But what often gets left out of this simplified version is the timeline, because the indecent exposure incident happened when he was 17. However, the conviction date was August 6, 2004, under Palo Alto County, Iowa law, after he had turned 18, meaning that he was charged as an adult for a crime he had committed when he was a minor, something that carried serious consequences, because it triggered a lifetime offender registration requirement starting at age 18.
I was not over 18, but since I was so close to being 18, they waived it to adult court and tried me as an adult for a misdemeanor, which landed me on the registry.
Exposing yourself at 17 is what he likes to say is the only thing that happened. He loves to skip over the fact that in that same year, he had several charges of assault and fighting.
But as if that wasn't already a bad enough look on Jeremy, in 2010, when he was 25 years old, he joined the dating site Plenty of Fish, where he met a young lady who he thought was above age 18, given that she was on an adult dating site.
Fast forward to 2010, I was on an adult dating website, Plenty of Fish. I thought I was protected because the rules and regulations of the website was to be 18 and older.
Well, that turned out not to be the case, because after talking to the girl via the dating site for at least 2 months, the two decided to meet up, and that's when Jeremy sealed his fate. According to Jeremy, they met up on Black Friday shopping as they were both out shopping, and he picked her up, and that's when she told him that she had gotten into a fight with her parents and did not have anywhere to go. Now, perhaps being a gentleman, Jeremy offered her a place to stay after questioning her multiple times how old she was.
When I picked her up, I questioned her again. How old are you? Because she did appear to be a little bit younger, but I definitely didn't know that she was as young as she was.
According to Jeremy, the lady claimed that she was 19 and that she was in cosmetology school, but it was later revealed that she was 13 years old.
Long story short, as much as I would like to get into the details of everything, I'm not going to, but what I can say is that I slept with her.
As expected, Jeremy ended up getting in trouble because the minor had a three-way phone call with the police department, and after pressure from her father, who's now deceased, in reference to what had happened, her father ended up getting Jeremy's name and information from her, which led to an investigation. Unfortunately for Jeremy, the minor ended up saying that she was kidnapped from the department store against her will.
She lied multiple times within the police reports, and I'm not here trying to vilify her or say that she hasn't made or say that I'm better in the situation or trying to make her seem like she's not a victim, because she is.
When this case went to court in Nebraska in 2011, prosecutors initially charged him with first-degree assault of a child, which is a far more severe felony under Nebraska law. However, the case did not end with that original charge, because Jeremy later entered a plea of no contest to a reduced charge of third-degree sexual assault. Now, a no contest plea meant that Jeremy did not admit guilt, but accepted conviction and sentencing as if guilty. But even with the reduced charge, the case still involved sexual activity with a minor. And as a result, Jeremy was sentenced to serve 1 year in prison, a sentence that strengthened the legal requirement that he remain on the Nebraska offender registry for life.
I'm not out here being predatory. I'm not out here seeking young women. I'm not out here seeking kids. That's not what I'm about. We're talking about stuff that happened 15 years ago. I'm not asking for everybody to understand or to see where I'm coming from, but unless you've been in my shoes or have lived something similar to that, there's really no room to talk.
All this controversy has had fans questioning everything Jeremy stands for, including his current content with him and his young autistic daughter.
Close your eyes. Keep those eyes closed. Don't choke on the food. You okay? Relax. You okay? Okay.
Some have gone as far as to speculate that the child, who cannot speak clearly, is not safe around him. One commenter said, "A predator with a nonverbal child? Yeah, that kid needs to be taken away for safety." And another one added, "This is terrifying." And knowing she's nonverbal, he made it a point to constantly bring up on the old account that he had 100% physical custody and all. I can't stop my mind from wondering if it was advertising. But what does Jeremy have to say about this?
Creating the narrative that my daughter is in harm's way, that's not okay. Calling people to contact CPS and report to CPS based off of internet rumors and online shit, that's not okay.
And despite the allegations that he's exploiting his own daughter for clout, Jeremy once again claims that it's not what people think, and that his content is purely intended to create awareness for special needs kids.
Me posting the things that I have are not to exploit my daughter. They're to share real life content about real life situations that happens with special needs children. And that's been the sole purpose of all of my content.
Yet what has had people outraged about Jeremy is the fact that he's promised to keep a record of everyone who has tried to vilify him online.
Here's what I'm doing. I'm documenting absolutely everything. I'm taking down screenshots, screen recordings, names, dates, links, all of that. There are consequences for the things that you post. Defamation, harassment, protective orders, civil damages, just to name a few.
While this is meant to keep people from posting about him, it has only made things worse for Jeremy, as many have seen this as a move to dodge accountability.
You have a problem with accountability, don't you? I mean, you really have a problem with it.
Also, after being advised, you guys continue to spread false information, and that can backfire legally as well. So, to anybody watching this, don't join the mob.
To Jeremy, if you create or post anything about him that is not factual, you're as guilty as everyone else defaming him, and you are responsible for all the harm that it creates.
I will continue to pursue accountability the right way, because realistically, lies have consequences.
But what Jeremy doesn't realize, or what he's ignoring, is the fact that this information is in the public record, meaning that anyone can access it. And while he keeps insisting that anyone talking about these allegations might find themselves in trouble, Jeremy has specifically talked about the minor under 14.
Later on, in my early 20s, I was involved in a relationship where the other person claimed to be 19 years old. I later learned that wasn't true.
Now, perhaps in some states being misled about someone's age happens to be a valid defense, and some call it a mistake of age defense. But in Nebraska, that defense is not recognized.
So even though the facts showed she had misrepresented her age, I was still charged, and that's why my name appears on a public registry. I can admit, on paper, those things look terrible, horrendous. I understand that. But context truly does matter.
Yet despite multiple people seeing his sob story with him claiming to be a victim of someone's lies, pure BS, Jeremy only keeps making his case worse and vilifying himself.
The age of consent in Nebraska is 16. I could be 80 years old and have relations with a 16-year-old, and legally there is absolutely nothing no one can do because it is legal by the eyes of the law.
Well, he's not entirely wrong, because it's technically not against the law. However, when society sees an 80-year-old man with a woman young enough to be his granddaughter, it raises some serious moral questions.
Does that make it morally acceptable? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it wouldn't land you on a registry. It wouldn't land you on any.
But the fact that he keeps insisting on it makes people and his critics pretty uncomfortable.
So to argue anything other than what the law states, trying to prove your point, doesn't make any sense to me.
And Jeremy takes this quite seriously, because he's willing to take legal action against anyone who uses his public record to sabotage his business opportunities. Like on September 11th, 2016, when Jeremy went to court and filed a petition and affidavit asking for a harassment protection order. Now, according to Jeremy's own written statement in that filing, he claimed a woman named Story Johnson had been interfering with his business. He said she contacted one of his clients, identified as Skinny Bones without any legitimate reason, a move that cost him a contact and hurt his ability to make money as a DJ. Specifically speaking, he argued that she was using his past convictions to scare clients away from hiring him again. However, things escalated on September 21st, 2016, because Jeremy reported that after he told Story to stop using his public information to contact his clients and post about him, she continued. This made Jeremy describe it as harassment and threats. Now, according to the police report, on Wednesday, September 21st, 2016, around 6 p.m., Officer Matt Wachowski spoke with Jeremy Wilson, who said he wanted to report harassment by Story. But to do that, Jeremy had to tell the officer that he's a registered sex offender and that he follows all the legal rules connected to his conviction. Now, Jeremy explained that after getting out of prison, he started a DJ business. But over time, he said several regular customers suddenly stopped booking him without explanation. And because of that, he asked the admin of his Facebook business page to promote an upcoming event. But soon after, he claimed Story began posting about his criminal history online and warning people to stay away from his shows. According to the report, Jeremy believed she was contacting multiple clients directly and telling them about his past convictions involving sexual assault of a minor. But how did Story come to know about his history? Turns out Jeremy and Story had previously lived in the same house, which is how she knew about his record. But despite his claims, the court eventually dismissed the petition due to insufficient evidence. Now, this was a really interesting case because as much as Jeremy accused Story of leaking his criminal history to his clients, it was already public record, and Jeremy has spoken about it so many times that it's no longer something new.
I own up to that shit. And regardless of whether I knew that girl's age or not, is irrelevant. I still have to live with the consequences.
It was a mistake I made as a kid. It wasn't something violent or dangerous, but because of how the system handled it, it's followed me ever since.
Perhaps he was just mad that she brought it to light, and it makes a lot of sense because even on his DJ business, Jeremy uses the name Jeremiah instead of his real name, something that had people questioning whether he's been running a business with a fake name to prevent people from knowing his true identity since it's linked with heinous allegations.
Have you been illegally DJing at people's schools under a different name so the school doesn't know that you're a predator?
Now, when news of this got out, people were shocked by the mere fact that someone with his record was a DJ in kids' schools. Some even confessed that they saw him live on TikTok from a school dance. Imagine being one of the parents and not knowing the school hired a PDF to DJ. Others even questioned the fact that the business claimed to be woman-owned. What do you mean women-owned? Is he lying to get more hits? Or is the woman hiring him not knowing his history? Why does it say woman-owned? Who's the woman? She needs to be held accountable as well. Epstein had Maxwell. Who is she? And what did Jeremy do after he saw that user at Shannon Lynn 94 was exposing him?
To move leave my name out of your mouth, leave my situation out of your mouth, and it's not because there's not some truth to what's being said, but a majority of it, you got it all the way messed up. All the way messed up. And to spread that narrative, you know how much a jury's going to award me in damages because of the false stuff that you're putting out here?
False stuff? Well, all she did was point out the obvious and leave the audience questioning why Jeremy had opted to use an alias in his business. But Jeremy had to kind of make an example of her to perhaps send a message.
Oh man, I'm going to love every bit of it. And then your kids and everybody attached to you will never have anything because you're going to owe it all to me. That's okay. That's okay. You can laugh at this video. Just wait until you get...
Yeah, it's not defamation to call a convicted up. Oh, he knows this. That's why he turned off all his comments too. Guaranteed his lawyer told him not to speak on any of this, but yet here he is yapping. He has to prove that you're lying. It's all public record. That's why he's made probated his account.
There's not a single thing I said defaming your character or false thing I have stated. There's nothing worth suing me over. So for you to get on the internet and say you're gonna take everything from my family, my children, and me for the rest of my life, and we are going to owe you everything for the rest of our lives, is absolutely fucking delusional.
Now, for a guy with such serious allegations and a criminal history on the public record, you'd think they would want to stay low, instead of constant back and forth with anyone who tries to make content about them, right? But not Jeremy. Because it's as if he has proudly owned his notoriety and decided to capitalize on the attention this brings to him by having multiple social media accounts.
My daughter and I started social media, and I decided to start social media before she could even talk. My daughter was nonverbal. She could barely say any words, and there was a time and a point where she couldn't even walk. My daughter was behind on all of her milestones, and she had a very difficult time in her childhood because she is autistic and intellectually disabled.
Yet as emotional as his story was, or at least as he tried to make it seem, not everyone believed him. I love how he's like, my daughter and I decided to start a channel. I started even before she could talk. No, buddy, your daughter decided nothing. You decided it with zero regard for your daughter's consent or welfare. This guy's the king of audacity, mental gymnastics, and delusion. Another commenter even joked, since when does the consent of a child matter to him?
From going viral because I became a single dad, because I went through divorce. I was going through divorce, and her biological mother doesn't want anything to do with her. She claims she does, but she doesn't show it through action.
I won't lie, he's a good storyteller and knows just the words to use to hook the listener. Because upon listening to this story, some actually loved him. You are an amazing dad to your daughter, and you're doing a great job taking care of yourself and Evelyn.
So I express myself on social media because there's other people out there, and other dads and other just individuals out there that go through these things. And it's not talked about enough from a man's perspective. So when I talk about it, it becomes an issue, or it becomes debatable, or it becomes, something that it doesn't need to be.
You're an amazing dad. I also have autism, and there was a time where I was nonverbal and I was afraid to talk.
Because back when I first started social media, before we blew up, before things got crazy and hectic, I earned this shit. I earned this body. I'm going to continue to earn every bit of it every day. Why? Because I've changed my life. I've changed my mindset.
Now, as much as he described himself as a guy who has earned everything he has, some have speculated that he has taken advantage of his autistic daughter to go viral on the internet for his own benefit, all while maintaining the super dad facade. For this reason, some have openly told him,
"For dad, if protecting your daughter is so important to you, get her off the internet. If her privacy is your main priority, as you said in your, stop posting videos of you berating her in the car. And sure, these life lessons are important, whatever, but they don't need to be."
I like that he's holding her accountable for her choices without yelling, hitting, or putting her down. Children understand so much more than they're given credit for. As someone who is autistic myself, sometimes a little tough love hurts, but it's done with good intentions. This man is a great dad. It's never acceptable to make people feel bad about themselves. True, holding a child accountable, whether they're specially abled or not, but it's like Jeremy walks a thin line between advocating for kids with autism and other special needs and exploiting his daughter. Now, when people talk about family content, there's a big difference between sharing your life and turning a child into the content. Experts call this the line between sharenting and exploitation. and the American Academy of Pediatrics has warned that parents should be careful about posting children online because digital footprints last forever and can affect safety, dignity, and mental health. However, once a parent begins posting vulnerable or private moments for engagement, critics argue that the line starts to blur. In the case of Jeremy, many viewers say that line wasn't just crossed, it disappeared. Specifically speaking, critics have pointed to videos where deeply personal moments involving his daughter were filmed and uploaded. Online discussions questioned why certain private caregiving situations were publicly shared at all. Now, child safety advocates consistently say that you can absolutely talk about parenting a child with disabilities without showing the child's face or private routines. Organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children emphasize minimizing identifiable information about minors online. Nevertheless, Jeremy's critics argue that much of his content centered directly on his daughter herself rather than on the experience as a parent. One moment that sparked especially strong backlash was when Jeremy said he needed help managing his daughter's menstrual care and claimed that he did not want to have to insert a tampon himself, but he would if he had to.
I really don't want to be sticking a tampon in my daughter. That's not what I signed up for. I mean, if I absolutely have to do it, I want to know how to do it appropriately. And I don't know these things. I'm not a woman.
That statement made publicly to followers triggered intense reactions, and viewers flooded comment sections expressing alarm, with some questioning, why would he have to do that? Some told him straight up that something like that is literally something you never have to do. She can wear a diaper or a pad. Why did he go straight to tampons? I didn't even wear tampons when I first started. Heck, even now, and my girls don't really even use them, unless you are swimming or something like that. Now, for a guy in a offender registry contemplating helping his daughter use a tampon and posting it online, he should have known better because the tampon video made me sick to my stomach. He's a vile person. Whether he was joking or not, posting it online kind of validated the critics who accused him of exploiting his daughter for virality.
This guy just could not grasp the concept that people are not going to take well to being on a registry not once but twice and doing dad content, exploiting your daughter. Exploiting your daughter in a bathing suit and posting that on Snap. Exploiting your daughter on this app, washing your back.
And because social media analysts often note that outrage drives engagement and posts that shock people tend to spread faster, when that engagement involves a child's privacy, the ethical concerns grow louder. And while being on the register alone does not automatically bar someone from the internet, many commenters argued that someone like Jeremy should not be allowed on TikTok. And although he was banned on TikTok, this did not stop people locally calling him out, especially Brandon Taylor, who's another parent at the school that Jeremy's daughter attends.
Oh, Super Dad, we need to have a conversation. See, you can run, but you can't hide, buddy. You think you're really smart, but not smart enough.
Brandon is a concerned single father who shared on his TikTok that Jeremy was wearing meta glasses to his kid's school and filming other children at the school, and then putting it, or at least some of it, on his social media.
He secretly records women and children with meta glasses and post them, and may not be posting all of them to social media.
And of course, all this happens without other parents' consent. Now, I bet you would not want a 2-time registered offender recording your children, right?
Also, my child attends the school. See, and the reason why it's my business is because this guy is a 3-time charged registered offender.
To be honest, Brandon was just acting as a protective parent, publicly calling out Jeremy for his criminal history and alleged unsafe behaviors, such as defying school policies by recording children on school grounds.
Over the last year, this man has harassed school staff at the school that his child and my child attend.
But this issue escalated into legal intimidation tactics by Wilson, including protective orders and lawsuit threats, as part of his pattern of attempting to silence Brandon.
Is a day that we see justice for Brandon Taylor's behavior and actions, because today is the day that I filed this motion for contempt in reference to him violating his restraining order. Yeah. On top of him getting a citation, he's going to have to answer to the judge.
Unfortunately for Jeremy,
what SuperSad is not telling you is that little motion that he filed, it was denied.
Regardless, it had gotten so bad that one of the things Jeremy wanted for Brandon was for him to be hit with sanctions and be incarcerated.
That one of the things that he would like to happen to me is being fined with sanctions and incarceration. Ain't that what that say right there?
This legal battle between Jeremy and Brandon had been going on for a while, but recently, Brandon uploaded a video claiming that the charges against him had been dismissed.
Just a little update, on our little citation. Dear Mr. Taylor, on the blah, 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 your charges have been what? Dismissed.
As this controversy went viral, Jeremy was made aware by the administration at the school that filming other people's children at the school was making other parents and other people uncomfortable. This got him in trouble with the school administration. And as he fought for his rights to do whatever any other parent could do in the school without any restrictions, his request was denied because of his criminal record. This did not sit well with Jeremy, and so he decided to somewhat threaten the school, insinuating that they'd be receiving backlash on social media regarding their interaction with him and treatment of him.
How you guys voted today, and the fact that you guys didn't listen to me, I can assure you there will be repercussions in not the sense of a physical repercussion, but there will be repercussions in a social media app.
Yet Brandon was not the only guy to get into a legal battle with Jeremy, because Danesh Nashirvan found himself in the chaos too. It all began in late 2025 when Danesh, a TikTok vigilante with over 1 million followers, dropped a bombshell 40-minute video outing Jeremy as a 3-time convicted offender.
Jeremy Ray Wilson is on the offender registry.
Danesh called him out for building a 100K plus following with girl dad videos featuring his kid, despite being a lifetime registry dude.
He should not be able to film and post online without her consent.
This went viral, sparking backlash, and Jeremy's quick TikTok ban for violating offender policies. However, things heated up from there, because in November 2025, Jeremy clapped back hard, threatening defamation suits and sending cease and desist letters to Danesh and other critics. He even roped in shady allies like convicted Joey Camp to harass Danesh online. Now, Danesh fired back with more stitches and duets, labeling Jeremy a coward for dodging real talk and using courts to silence folks. By December, Jeremy filed actual lawsuits, claiming harassment, and tried protective orders. Total intimidation move. But the most controversial bit came when Jeremy evaded bans with alternative social media accounts like @ThatLawsuitGuy2026, posting about voiceless advocacy, while Danesh rallied supporters with a GoFundMe for legal fees against Jeremy's frivolous suits. Critics slammed Jeremy for obsessing over Danesh, with videos showing him ranting non-stop.
Can't really call that factual things. You can't call that factual basis. So before you go posting online and trying to vilify people, you should probably talk to your legal team prior to making posts. It's probably a wise idea, because with that comes slander, defamation, all those things.
Fast forward to January 2026, Jeremy's new account got traction, but irony hit when TikTok permabanned Danesh on January 28th, hours after a Frank Report expose on his alleged harassment tactics. However, in his savage twist, Jeremy snagged the @ThatDaneshGuy handle, turning the tables while suing him. Danesh called it BS, accusing TikTok of favoring offenders over whistleblowers. Over 100 complaints led to a federal probe into Danesh for inciting harm. Now, while this went on, Danesh got, let's say, too creative.
Jeremy Wilson. I didn't plan on doing more videos about this guy, but like I showed you in the last video, dude couldn't stop poking the bear. And because he kept harassing me and sending me mail, I got curious and looked up the address and saw that Jeremy's not the only person that shows up in his rental property.
And here's where things get even stranger, and honestly more uncomfortable to talk about. There's another adult living in the house, with Jeremy and his daughter, someone he refers to as Grandma, and from what's been shown online, she's constantly around, picking his daughter up from school, tagging along wherever he goes, basically present in almost every part of their daily routine. However, Jeremy's actual mother passed away a few years ago, and genuinely condolences for that loss, but that fact naturally raises questions.
Just leaves the question, who the hell is this? Who is she? Who the fuck is she? Why is she picking up the kids? Why is she... You ready for the big reveal on who she is? You know what? Guess what the big reveal is going to be. Yes, exactly that. Pedophile.
Oh my gosh, I'm really shocked. I wasn't expecting this. That's a serious claim, and it's one that's fueled a wave of outrage and fear across comment sections. Someone has called the police, then they will get CPS, right? Sounds like he has a PDF ring possibly going on. Yet Danesh isn't the only one to have exposed this.
I asked you about your roommate. Your roommate is also on a registry that lives with your child.
This right here, this is Linda Myers, or Timothy, the transmission that he's bunked up with in that cell of a house that he's in. Because this motherfucker is a 2-time charge registered ex offender too.
Nevertheless, the core concern people keep repeating is this. Why would someone already under scrutiny choose to live with and raise a child alongside a person surrounded by allegations like that? But what makes this even more tense is the contradiction people point out, because Jeremy has publicly pushed back against anyone bringing up his past, even taking legal action at times. He's spoken about wanting distance from old headlines, but critics argue that distancing yourself from controversy doesn't line up with surrounding yourself with more of it, and that's why people are uneasy. Because when two adults with serious accusations in their background are co-parenting under one roof, especially with an autistic child who can't speak clearly, the situation stops being gossip and starts feeling like something that demands real answers. Perhaps Jeremy's child is not safe, and perhaps the cops need to take a look at that really suspicious situation. I live in Omaha and will be glad to call the police, CPS, and the school where his daughter goes if no one else has at this point. They shouldn't be allowed at the school or allowed to raise that little girl at all. This is ridiculous. Someone give me the info so I can call. Hasn't anyone already?